Hello, hello. Welcome to Rainy Day Podfic. I'm your host, Jay, Pan, or Bean, whichever you prefer, or come up with a new name for me and put it down in the comments. Today I'll be reading Mothman, by Orphan Account on AO3. This fanfiction is 3 chapters long for a total of 3,090 words. Summary. After being abandoned by a superstitious mother because of his quirk, Midoriya Izuku was adopted by Aizawa and Yamada. Being very smart, or just having too much free time, sparked a deal with Nedzu to take tests to test out of academic classes, so he can spend that time doing something better, sleeping. Now Izuku has to deal with heroic classes while being sleep-deprived because he is nocturnal. Chapter 1. Izuku ran his hands over the fussy fur of his wings, making the trek to Nedzu's office. He had already gotten his acceptance letter, informing him he made it into the hero course. Of course, his dad sponsored him for a recommendation exam since he could not be bothered to do the normal exam. Now he just had to take a few placement exams to allow him to skip all academic classes to sleep, which he is so glad Nedzu is allowing him to do because he is nocturnal by nature and cannot simply go to sleep at night. Causing him to sleep for a majority of the day. Of course, he drags himself out of bed to spend time with his dads, but a full school day out of his sleep would be hell. Because of his nocturnal nature, Izuku just simply took online courses designed by Nedzu at night. Since he wants to be a hero, that would not work, especially at UA. So, after he tests out, Nedzu says he can spend his free time sleeping wherever he sees fit. Dragging himself from his mind, he finds himself in front of the office door, stepping in and ensuring his fate for the next few hours. After passing, Izuku marched the short walk to the staff apartments and passed out in bed. Izuku would have been getting ready for bed if it wasn't for school. Instead, he had to get ready and deal with other people, which you could imagine was not a common occurrence for a nocturnal. Causing Izuku to be quite salty, he also has no social skills and wishes to keep it that way. However, he is guaranteed to get many questions where he goes during academic classes, his quirk, blah blah blah. But alas, he's cursed with social interaction. Who knows, maybe he'll make friends, or his classmates will have very intriguing quirks. So he finds himself in the teacher's lounge an hour before class, glaring at his also very tired father, jealous that he couldn't drink coffee. Hatefully sucking on frozen honey, the one way he could digest anything solid. Izuku shall never know the joys of caffeine because of his quirk. Sad, sad times. The only thing he could do was curl into a ball on a chair and sleep. Why is there a student in here? Izuku uncurled his body at the very rude awakening, glaring at the very stickly-looking man. Yes, stickly, not sickly. Find your beeswax, Izuku hissed as he nabbed another frozen honey from his bag. Izuku heard the quiet snickers from his dads as the man sputtered and spit out blood. Looking at an imaginary watch on his wrist, Izuku stood up and stretched. Why, look at the time. I have places to be. After gathering his stuff, Izuku sauntered out of the teacher's lounge and made his way to Class 1A. Now, he could have stayed in the lounge for a while. The dramatic effect was worth it. There was still around 40 minutes till the bell was going to ring, so after arriving at his destination, he claimed his desk in the back corner. Then can you guess? He put his head down and slept. In his defense, when the first student arrives, he will automatically be woken up, since his antennas made him extremely sensitive to noise. He also knows the first student to arrive will probably be Ida, one of the only kids his age he's interacted with, so he'll probably know to leave Izuku alone. Of course, he was right, like he always is. Wow, rather egotistical of you, Izuku. I mean, it's kind of true. After giving an acknowledgement nod to Ida, he went back to sleep. There, when he was awoken up by every student entering, and the only time he actually lifted his head was to see a probably equally sleep-deprived kid with purple hair slipping into the seat next to him. It appeared the kid, unlike him, had the ability to drink coffee as he had a thermos that was presumably filled with coffee. That unneeded reminder of Izuku's misfortunes caused him to pull out another frozen honey popsicle to attempt to give himself energy. Stretching, he looked at the clock. That showed they only had a few minutes till the bell. Groaning, he started to look at all of the different characters that now occupied the room. They all had too much energy, especially the ashy blonde-haired kid that was yelling at Ida. Izuku had just enough time to let that dread sink in until he watched his father slowly inch across the floor like a weird caterpillar. Looking around, he saw that no one but him had noticed his dad. Shaking his head in disappointment, Izuku had a short staring contest with his dad. "If you're here to make friends, you can look for friends elsewhere and kindly escort yourself away from me." The class shut up pretty quickly after they watched the man step out of his sleeping bag and flash his quirk at them. "It took all of you 8 seconds to shut up. Do better. I'm Aizawa Shouta, your teacher. Change into these and meet me at the training grounds." And with that, the 2023 season was over. Kidding. Aizawa just turned around and walked out the door. Izuku, being unfazed, quickly took his uniform and walked to the changing rooms, grinning at the following sounds of kids rushing around. Shirts made for people with wings were kind of a pain in the ass, with little buttons in the back so the shirt can be put on from the front and holes for his wings. Man, I hate buttons, they're annoying. So, being the first person in the locker room was turned away from the door struggling with those goddamn buttons, when suddenly there was a chorus of gasps coming from the door. Whipping around with a handful of startled squeaks to see just arriving boy staring at his wings, you see, Izuku's quirk was not just a simple plain moth quirk. No, that's boring. Izuku's quirk gave him attributes of a death head hawk moth, a specific type of moth that normally has the faint pattern of a white skull on the moth's thorax. However, as Izuku does not have a thorax, that pattern is smack in the middle of his wings, split in half between both wings. So, when his wings are closed, it shows the distinct skull. Please look up the death head hawk moth, as it is rather interesting and will give you a more accurate view of how Izuku looks. Side tangent over, Izuku knows his wings can be a bit of a shocker, so he simply returned to his struggling. "It's your hysteria now." Taking a quick look back, he saw that the person that disrupted the boy staring was the purple kid. Maybe Izuku will actually make one friend this year. 2 tired people united. Nice. Waiting for the whole class to gather at the field was rather boring, causing Izuku to sway on his feet a bit, trying not to fall asleep. While they can't change faster than Izuku when he has to work with wings, Izuku could full-heartedly understand his dad's annoyed expression. "It took 10 minutes for everyone to get here. Remember, tardiness can kill. I expect you to get it down to 3 minutes by the end of the year." His dad heavily sighed at the way to energize class. We're going to be taking what you called a quirk assessment test. Bakugo, you scored highest on the entrance exams. What was your farthest score in middle school? I think it was around 62 meters. Aizawa tossed the ball at him. "Now do the same using your quirk. Anything is fine as long as you stay in the circle." From there, Izuku kind of zoned out until there was a loud-ass explosion. That caused Izuku to grip his antennas in pain. A warning would have been nice. He barely registered his dad talking, then grinning evilly at the class, causing the students to panic. Then, his dad's smile faded as he apparently put the fear of God into his classmates. Not that he could hear it, as his ears were ringing and his antenna had kind of just flopped on his black curly hair. His hearing had only recovered after all the shock was over. Even though the example was a ball throw, weirdly enough, the first test was the 50-meter dash, which Izuku thought he did pretty good, since the Death Head moth is the fastest moth. He could use his quirk on an okay number of tests, like the longer running test. He cleared the sandbox and more, and he flew a reasonable amount in the air to get the ball to go farther. However, the other tests, he could not use his quirk, resulted in a handful of average scores thrown in the bunch. Overall, at the end, he won a good 6th place and was utterly confused when his dad said he did a logical ruse and no one was expelled. That's the end of Chapter 1, moving on to Chapter 2. Izuku is very happy it was a half day, so he can ease more into getting less sleep for the next 3 years. Fun. His dads did have to stay back for some sort of meeting. He would have just went home alone. However, Nedzu requested for him to attend so the staff could be warned of his special schedule. Which is kind of weird because most of the staff knows, but Nedzu asked and he shall receive. Izuku leaned back into his seat, popping another honey popsicle into his mouth. He was sat in a seat in between Nedzu and his father, struggling to pull his wings to wrap around his body. Everyone was there, but the meeting had yet to start, and there was an empty seat at the other end of the table. Then that stickly man walked through the door. Man, Izuku totally forgot about what happened in the teacher lounge. "Why is there a student in here?" The dude coughed blood into a handkerchief, shuffling to his seat. "Don't worry about Izuku. He'd hear eventually." Interesting. Izuku turned to Nedzu and raised an eyebrow. He didn't exactly get an answer, as Nedzu just grinned at him. Okay, not weird at all. Okay, let's get to the point. First, I'd like to officially explain Izuku's schedule. As most of you know, Izuku's quirk makes him nocturnal, and to avoid him burning out, he took tests to test out of high school academic classes. As he took a moment to look around, most of the teachers were nodding along with the info, except All Might, of course. Since he passed, he is no longer enrolled in any classes but heroic classes and homeroom. I've given him special permission to go wherever in the school to occupy himself or sleep. Stickman kind of sputtered, getting weird looks from the rest of the staff. "Nedzu, are you sure it's fine letting a child roam around the school?" That earned some glares, especially from Izuku's dads. "I can assure you that Izuku is fine. Moving on," Nedzu chirped happily. He then went on to introduce the Stickman as All Might. Well, that's unfortunate. Unfortunately, a good thing. Izuku does not like All Might because he's so loud and destructive. I mean, one of his dads is President Mike, but he's Izuku's dad. Izuku decided that was enough and put his head down did his thing. Izuku decided he would ignore him if he has to deal with All Might as one of the teachers he actually has. Anyways, it's the first full day and Izuku is stuck debating if he wants to go to lunch with the other kids. That would definitely give the other kids time to ask him questions. Izuku's kind of tempted to try and befriend that one purple kid. Enough debating. Izuku should be sleeping. There was still a good 30 minutes before the bell, and Izuku was just staring into space at his desk. Emotional turmoil aside, Izuku put his head down and slept. About 10 minutes before class started, Izuku was woken up by the purple dude sliding into the desk next to him. Stretching, Izuku did the same thing as yesterday, pulled out a popsicle, and drowned in the sadness of never being able to have coffee. The purple dude was the first to break the silence. "Coffee?" He held his thermos out slightly to Izuku. "Man, I wish, but alas, I have to stick to a moth diet." Purple dude grimaced, acknowledging the sadness that has to be having no coffee. They sat in comfortable silence until the bell rang and Izuku's dad walked through the door. "Only 4 seconds to quiet down this time. Acceptable." He pulled out his Sora of a sleeping bag, stepping into it. "Okay, Hellions. Do what you want as long as you don't wake me up." Nice. Sleeping time. Izuku only has another class after lunch, so he now is just trying to find a dark corner to sleep in. After thinking for a while, he decided to go to his Louder father's classroom, because he has a large storage closet, which is a good area on top of to sleep. Using his quietness to his advantage, Izuku slipped into the back of the classroom and scaled the closet and slept to his heart's content. Izuku decided to go to lunch, since Lunch Rush has a special storage of amazing nectar. After getting his food, he looked around until the big table housing 1A and sat down next to the purple kid. Man, where did you go? The only time I saw you was at the quirk assessment." A dude with spiky red hair spoke up. "I was at homeroom," Izuku said, kind of questioning. "Really?" a few kids yelled out. "Yes." "But where were you during your other classes?" A blonde kid with a lightning bolt in his hair. Izuku really has to learn their names. This is starting to get outrageous. "Sleeping." End of chapter 2. Moving on to chapter 3 in the last chapter. "Aizawa, it's completely unacceptable to skip class." Ida's really throwing him under the bus, calling him Aizawa in front of their classmates. Yawning, he glared at Ida, who had frozen up after realizing what he had done. "I wasn't skipping. I made a deal with Nedzu to allow me to not take academic classes so I could sleep, since I'm nocturnal. Remember?" Izuku rolled his eyes as Ida's face turned red from embarrassment. Ida opened his mouth to say something else, but was interrupted by the redhead. "Your last name's Aizawa? Like, Aizawa-sensei? Izuku sighed. He wasn't expecting to interact with them enough for them to find out. Yeah, he's my father. Just call me Izuku. What? Izuku ran his fingers over his twitching antenna, and after that assault of loud noise, looking up, he saw the class staring at him with shocked expressions. Eraserhead as a kid? Izuku was able to pick that quiet question from the purple kid that seemed less aimed at him and more just pure shock. I'm surprised you know who Eraserhead is. The purple kid dropped to a shade paler, and then his face flushed in embarrassment. Wow, he'd never seen someone's face color change so fast. You know my name. What's yours? Izuku said it was a good time to ask, as the rest of their class was bugging out. Shinsou Hitoshi, but you can call me Hitoshi, since you said we should call you by your first name. Nice to meet you, Hitoshi. I think we'll get along just fine. Izuku flashed him a grin as he flapped his wings slightly. After lunch was over, there was first ever Fundamental Heroics class, so here Izuku was talking quietly with Hitoshi, with the unfortunate knowledge of who their teacher is. I am here, walking through the door like a normal person. Dumbass. All Might flashed a card at them that just said, Battle, in bold letters. Wow. Fundamental Heroics is your most important class, giving you the stepping stones to the road to success. That's a little rude to his fellow teachers. But you can't be a hero without a flashy costume. All Might pressed a button, revealing a wall of boxes, probably with their costumes. He gets a point for dramatic effect, but he really did not have to throw in the word flashy. Change into your gear and meet me at Ground Alpha. Huh. Were we meant to go to Gym Delta for costume assessments? Whatever, Izuku will deal with that when he has his costume on. Izuku stood up and grabbed his and Toshi's cases, giving Toshi his, and walking to the locker room. Izuku stood and admired his costume for a second. It consisted of a black skin-tight jumpsuit that covered his neck and stopped at his wrists and ankles. Over it, he had loose black cargos with a single line of orange, in the same color as his underwings, on the outside of both legs. They were tucked into black combat boots that had the same color orange laces that went up to about a third of his legs. Over the top, he had a crop jacket that stopped halfway down his torso into his wrists. It hung pretty loose on his body and was also the same color as his underwings. He had the hood pulled over his head because it has built-in covers for his antenna to stop overexposure to loud sounds. He also had a utility belt that was black with orange pouches, and finally a black mask and gloves with built-in brass knuckles. His utility belt had a few things: 3 knives, very strong window smasher, and some general medical stuff, a bottle of honey, a taser, and a can of bear spray. Before he left the locker room, he sent a quick text to his dad warning him that All Might not stick to the lesson plan. So he wasn't all that surprised to find his dad glaring at All Might when they arrived at the grounds. Sorry, kids. Looks like All Might made a mistake. Head over to Gym Delta for your costume assessments. And I realized so quickly into the first chapter, when it first mentioned Izuku's antennas, I remembered that, oh shit, I forgot his antenna. I've changed the image I used for this like 5 times, and I keep forgetting his fucking antenna. Shit. So I realized that, and I'm kind of too lazy to go back and fix it, because it's also like 11:20 p.m. Also, for anyone who cares, today is January 20th currently. 23:20 or 23 hour 2300 20. I don't fucking know how to say military, like the 24-hour clock. I don't know how to verbalize it. 23:20, 11:20 p.m. But AO3 will be down for roughly 15 hours, starting at 8 a.m. UTC on January 21st. If you go to the AO3 website, they will have a little link with under the question, what time is that for me? And it will auto-translate, not auto-translate, but like, it'll pull you to a webpage that will show what 8 a.m. UTC on January 21st is for you, so you will know when the 15-hour break from AO3 happens. Yeah. you have a status page and everything too in that little banner. I love when AO3 does that type of stuff. Also, sorry about the 2-week break. Not last week, was it? No, not last week, but the week before, I was sick. Like that Tuesday, I got sick. Wait, what date did I post the rats? 2 weeks ago, January 5th, and then I was sick on the 6th, right? Oh my gosh, why won't it let me do stuff? Okay, yeah, so on the 5th, I posted the rats, we are the rats, and then on the 6th, I got sick. It started with just a bit of a cough, and then there was a solid 10 minutes, a bit before I had to go to my other job, that I just could not stop shaking. Like, it was my entire body was trembling, and I had zero control over it. And then at that job, I'm pretty sure I fell asleep for a few minutes at one point in time. I was incredibly lightheaded, nauseous, generally ill, essentially. I was visibly much paler than I already normally am. All that jazz. Like, I was noticeably sick. And then I went home. I got sent home like 2.5 hours early. And when I got home, crying, mind you, 2-minute walk from my house, and I walked that entire way whilst being sick, crying too the entire time because I was in a lot of pain. I had a fever of 102.6, and then I proceeded to sleep most of the next 2 days away, and then that Friday I was still recovering. Got sent home early from work, this time by about a half hour, because I was nauseous as fuck. And then that Saturday I was mostly fine again, but I've still had a horrendous cough ever since then. But it's finally gone down to the point I feel like I can Podfic again, so whoop-de-doo, fuck yeah. Oh, what the fuck? Sorry, I'm looking, like, at the description, of the rats video. I didn't realize there was an AI generated video summary. Ew. That's kind of icky. Sorry. But also, oh my gosh, while we're all here, my most viewed video has over 1,900 views. Holy shit. Thank you to everyone who watched that video. I don't think people quite realize just how much that means to me. I started podficking, did not expect to get literally any attention at all. You know, I wanted an excuse to read fanfiction. And I figured, you know what, maybe someone will enjoy this. And now I have over 200 subscribers, and my most viewed video has over 1,000 views. Like, what the fuck? My top 2 videos have over 1,000. I'm so inexplicably excited about that. And just thank you, everyone, so much. Holy shit. It's insane to me. Seriously, I don't know, like, how to say it. I don't know what to say at all. Just thank you, really. And also, looking at analytics, there's, across all of my videos, I'm at over 11,000 views. Like, totaling up every single one of my videos. That's insane. Over 900 hours of watch time. Holy shit. Like, oh, you know, I just don't expect that kind of thing. I really appreciate it. Anyways, I need to talk about the fic. Sorry, words are hard. I say as a native English speaker, I should know this language better. Okay, so looking up the Death Hawk Moth, or, oh, what the fuck is he actually called? I just had it. Other window has, oh, or not, what the fuck, you whore? Sorry. Death Head Hawk Moth. They are so cool. Holy shit. I am not gonna try and replicate their wings for the thumbnail. they're a spectacle. I love them. They're so pretty. It's not really an orange color like was said in the fic. I can see how in certain lighting you would think it's orange, but it definitely appears more yellow, a very vibrant yellow. And there are so many different skulls. It's epic. It's awesome. Oh my gosh. And their wings have different patterns. Like, generally, the bottom set of wings, the underwing or whatever it's called in the fic, is yellow with two black horizontal stripes. And that is generally pretty... Sorry. And that is generally, like, pretty uniform between the moths. But the upper wings are... They all seem to have different patterns. And they're just so pretty. I really like it. Okay. Fic itself. Kind of disappointed it's not longer. Holy shit, I would have loved if it was. Because it's amazing. I love the concept. There's definitely room that it could have been expanded. Sadly enough, this is an orphan account, so it won't be updated again. It kind of can't be updated ever again. But make sure you jump on over to AO3 while it's up. Leave comment and kudos on the original fic. And if you are interested in writing, there is a way you can list a fic as inspired by. So if you want to take the premise of this fic of Izuku having a moth-based quirk, I'm sure the original author would probably appreciate seeing that. You know, including the little inspired by bit is honestly a really nice touch, because it makes sure that, like, the person is getting some form of credit for the original idea. I've seen it done so many times, and I really like it, because the inspired by fics are always so interesting. I mean, you have accidental bonding in Little Acts of Kindness. Little Acts of Kindness was inspired by accidental bonding. I know I'm saying the fic titles, but I don't know the authors. Well, Little Acts of Kindness is a over 100 chapter long fic, and accidental bonding is a one-shot. And it's so sweet and cute and adorable, and I love it. I've been talking for a while. I need to shut up. Sorry. Sorry, my throat keeps clogging. I can word. Right, okay, so thank you so much for sticking around to the end if you're still here, or if you even just watched this video for a few minutes. I know you probably won't hear this, but thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed. This is damn near a half hour. I really hope you enjoyed. Make sure you eat. Keep your body nourished, bestie. You fucking need it. Holy shit. Hydrate. Like, actual water. Even if you need water, like, even if you need those little flavorings, water. You just need water. You're a human being, I think. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe you're an animal listening to this. Doesn't matter. You need water regardless, fucker. If you take medications or vitamin supplements, make sure you take those. Sorry. Get some sleep. Holy shit. You need to sleep too, regardless of what you are. Sleep's important. You can't survive without sleep after an extended period of time. Take care. Thank you so much for staying around. I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. Bye-bye.